Hey everyone, PB Ekataka here. About 2 years ago, I saw a 1/8 scale figure listed at several anime figure retailers for a very eye-catching price, about in the $20 range. So what figure is it exactly? This. Ruka Kayamori from a series called Heaven Burns Red. I actually bought this during a Tokyo trip in late 2023. So, is this scale figure really all that for such a low price? I'm going to find out, just like you're going to find out, about the sponsor. Just kidding, you think I actually have a sponsor? No, my videos rarely get past 1,000 views. Heck, they struggle to get past 500 views. So if someone sponsored me, they'd be taking a massive L. However, if you'd like to support me, drop a like, leave a comment, and sub to the channel. It costs $0, and that is money well saved. If you're familiar with a certain Canadian tech YouTuber Giant, that whole spiel will sound very familiar. Anyways, back to the figure. Again, this is a 1/8 scale figure of Ruka Kayamori from Heaven Burns Red, and I think there's one thing that stands out right away. The packaging heavily resembles an anime prize figure box. To compare, here's a One Piece Grand Line prize figure. The packaging is actually quite similar. So what's going on here? Is this really a scale figure like Kotobukiya's Artifacts J Nobara Kugisaki or Alter's Mila Maxwell? Or is this just a glorified prize figure? Only one way to find out. Here's the box, front, right, back, and left. There's nothing interesting at the top or bottom, so let's just open this up. Huh, that's interesting. Even though this is advertised as a scale figure, it's packed, like a prize figure. Let's dump out the base, and there's one more thing in the box. Just give me a second or 20 to fish it out. So what's good, everyone? I've been hearing a lot about honey lately. Are bees dying at an alarming rate again? So, it was a piece of paper with a QR code linking to a user manual. How odd, prize figures normally don't come with instructions. So here's the Ruka figure herself. First impressions, she actually looks really good, and here's the base. Hexagon shaped like OG Papa Parade figures. I bet this was meant to be a competitor to that line. With only 2 components to this figure, assembly should be easy. And that's it. It was an easy, stress-free assembly process. As I said when I first opened this figure, Ruka is looking pretty good. I don't see any problems from here, but why not go in for a closer look? The first thing that pops out are Ruka's eyes. The eye decals used are quite glossy and really stand out from the somewhat subdued paint job. Speaking of that, it's really good for what appears to be a prize figure. It might be a bit hard to see from here, but if we look from the top, Ruka's hair is airbrushed really well. It's not just a flat color, there's a really good brown gradient. That same effect is also present at the end of Ruka's hair, and that's really impressive. Again, it's not what you expect for something that's supposed to be a prize figure. As for the uniform, to me it looks like it has a better paint job compared to other prize figures. The tie looks smooth, the little details on the jacket are clean, as is the gold trim, and there's plenty of wrinkles in the shirt. That's some nice detail, I guess. To me, it looks like she either didn't iron her clothes or her uniform is a bit too small and tight for her. Considering how short that skirt is, I'm leaning towards the latter. I gotta praise the sculptor for the zipper detail on the jacket. The gold chain and what I assume is an ID card are also nice bits of flair. It's really good bang for your buck so far. I'm sorry, this is the 3rd time I'm coming back to this shot, but I wanted to highlight the lack of visible seam lines. The ones on the jacket are well hidden. As for the seam line that separates the front and back hair pieces, it's not very visible. Elcoco did a really good job concealing that seam line and making it seem like another section of hair. Kudos, Elcoco. Kudos. As you'd expect with a short skirt wearing character, a lot of leg is being shown. That's all. Nothing else to report here. Even when I use my static brush, a bit of dust always remains. Anyways, here's Ruka's socks, shoes, and the base. I think the socks have the only noticeable seam line, but then again, this is not something you'll see from normal viewing angles. The shoes have a glossy paint finish to mimic a leather appearance, and it's what I'm used to seeing with these schoolgirl figures. Despite my initial skepticism upon opening the box, the figure is actually really solid for such a low price point. I am pleasantly surprised. It's a very solid start to Elcoco's first offering. Now would be the time to wrap up, but you know what? I have another Heaven Burns Red 1/8 scale figure by Elcoco. Let's move on to round 2. The name of this character is Yuki Izumi. That's like almost a mix of Lucky Star names. Anyways, her packaging and the way she's packed are identical to Ruka's, so we're just gonna breeze past that. Here's an issue I found with Yuki. Her connector pegs do not quite line up with the corresponding holes on the base, so you kinda have to bend her leg to get the peg to fit. The figure wasn't too flexible, so be careful when doing this. Hopefully Yuki isn't too difficult to assemble with that alignment issue. With that in mind, what I think is really important to do here is oh, we're done already. Okay then, moving on. In terms of quality assurance, Yuki is just as good as Ruka, but I'll highlight some of the differences. Yuki's eyes don't stand out as much as Ruka's, and I mainly think that's due to the eyeglasses. Yuki has an open mouth expression, which can look odd from certain angles, and due to the angle of her head, you can actually see the seam line between her head and neck. While these are the weakest points of the figure, they're honestly negligible. For other differences, Yuki has some kind of clasp or brooch thing instead of a tie, and her uniform is far neater. Her jacket is zipped up, her shirt's buttoned up, and her clothes look smooth and ironed. Despite those differences, Yuki and Ruka have the same length skirt, and the former actually shows off more fan service. Now for what puts Yuki on a different level compared to Ruka, the Zettai Ryoiki or Absolute Territory. If you're an otaku, you know all about it. If you're not, it's too complicated to explain here. Anime News Network has an in-depth article explaining that. What I found quite interesting about Yuki's thigh highs is that they're probably the most detailed part of the figure. It seems like the most effort went into airbrushing the thigh highs to really make them stand out. Elcoco definitely understands their market, and it seems like it worked because she sold out at figure retailers. So let's try to clear something up. Are these scale figures or prize figures? Prize figures are typically advertised as non-scale, and I'm sure the prize figure-like packaging might be confusing for some people. At first, I didn't see any text on the box that identified these as scale figures, but then I realized it's at the bottom of the box, almost like fine print. So I guess these are scale figures after all. But when I went to Elcoco's Twitter profile, their handle says Elcoco Prize. So these are actually prize figures? Ugh, the branding's all over the place, but whatever. Well then, why don't we compare Ruka and Yuki to a definite prize figure? Here they are next to the Uma Musume Oguri Cap prize figure I found at Ross. Just from this view, the Elcoco figures look vastly superior, but hey, we can at least take a quick, closer look. Here we are, and from head to toe, it's still the same story. The Elcoco figures have the edge. Even more so when compared to Yuki. Oguri Cap is just looking bland compared to the others. Now how do these stack up to a certified scale figure? Let's go with Alter's Mila Maxwell. From here, it's kinda hard to tell. It looks like Mila has the edge, but when we close in, I think Mila's outfit is lacking in detail compared to the Heaven Burns Red girls. Its colors are kinda flat, and that's not really the case on the other side. Mila's hair is where it's at. So, the low-cost HBR girls hold up real well compared to the now $40 Mila Maxwell, though it's worth noting that Mila released over 12 years ago. How about a more modern comparison then? Okay, let's go with the now $180 Spirit Tail Himiko Toga that's been sitting on my set. Himiko is vastly superior to the HBR girls, but also vastly more expensive. You get what you pay for. And speaking of that, I bought the HBR girls during separate Japan trips. At the time of purchase, Ruka and Yuki cost $10 and $12 respectively. Considering that both of them look so much better than standard prize figures, I think I got more than what I paid for. If you're in the States, importing these from Mandarake might run you around 33 bucks. That price is based off US dollar and Japanese yen conversion rates on February 10th, 2025. And as for buying stateside, well, it's a lot more pricey. On Amazon, each figure costs nearly 30 bucks. I would not recommend this route unless it was a last resort. Again, both of these girls cost me about 22 bucks total. It'll be a little more expensive to import them, but considering the quality, they're still worth it. I referred to these as scale figures and price figures separately due to conflicting advertising, but I don't think it's quite right to deem these as one or the other. I'll just say they're price scale figures. Or scale price figures. I better quit while I'm ahead. Before I wrap up, I forgot to mention a few things. These figures are just under 8 inches tall. I'm sure you noticed these are much taller than the price figure I compared them to. As for the other thing, the HBR figures were Elcoco's first foray into making affordable scale price figures, and they knocked it out of the park. I'm looking forward to seeing more. Sadly, I don't have the third Heaven Burns Red 1/8 scale figure by Elcoco, Tama Kunimi. During my last trip to Tokyo, I saw her for about 2,800 yen. I thought that was too expensive, but considering what she's going for on Amazon right now, I should have just bought her. Oh well, maybe sometime in the future. If you enjoyed the review and you have some more time on your hands, check out some of my other videos. Make sure to like, comment, sub. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.